Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before starting the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and give this video a like up. You're listening to Y&R Bumbshall Gossip, the latest in television, entertainment news. Hey Young and the Restless fans, we have Victoria Newman and Nate Hastings both grieving, and it sure feels like we could be getting a reunion between them soon. It's Belinda from Y&R Bumbshall Gossip. And let's get into how Victoria and Nate may wind up together again. Please hit subscribe if you're not following us. Let's talk about it. The last time Nate and Victoria were together, it was frankly a big old mess because Nate was in a committed relationship when they started up. But he was with Alina Dawson, and then he cheated on her with Victoria, who was very hot in pursuit of him, and thanks to Audra blabbing to Alina, she traveled to LA, confronted Victoria, and dumped Nate. And then Victoria started dating Nate properly, and they began a genuine relationship, but it wasn't a high-functioning one. The way they started wasn't good because it was based on him cheating on Alina, who's nice. And you know, Victoria was flirting with someone that worked for her, which was dodgy and inappropriate. And part of why Nate and Victoria wound up splitting was also down to Victor being so heavy-handed and targeting Nate and overly involved in Victoria's life. Clearly, the Newmans are a big obstacle to any relationship that Victoria starts up, but Victor in particular. However, I do think Victoria is also done letting her dad have a say-so in her love life. She told him to shove it over Cole, and she stuck by her guns. So, after all that happened, that's when Nate got with Audrey, who had been hot and heavy for him for a while before that, and Victoria wound up involved with her ex Cole Howard after his crazy aunt Jordan Howard brought him and their daughter, Claire Howard, back into Victoria's life. So while Nate was busy prying open Audrey's cold heart, you know, she wasn't open to love before, we saw Victoria and Cole making up for lost time with Claire. And Victoria and Cole were falling back in love. Now though, things are changing for both Victoria and Nate. Recently, you know, Cole died after getting Legionnaire's disease. He didn't respond to treatment and he lost his battle. So, naturally, Victoria is grieving and she's trying to be there to console Claire as well. And one of the first signs of a possible Nate and Victoria reunion came a while back when Cole was sick and Nate was being very supportive of Victoria and trying to be helpful. Then, when Cole died, Nate headed over there right away to console Victoria in her great time of loss. You know, her family was away in France, but Nate was there for Victoria. And this week, it's Nate's turn to do some grieving and get some comforting from Victoria because Lily breaks the news to Nate that Damien was killed in France. And of course, Nate's horrified that his newfound brother is gone so suddenly when he and Damien were just starting to really get to know each other. And Nate's also going to worry about how Amy will handle this since she's still undergoing cancer treatment. She's going to be devastated to know that her son Damien is dead. And she may even blame herself because she's the one who brought him to GC and that's kind of the road he ended up on and then, you know, was killed. Nate thought that he and Damien were going to have all the time in the world to get to know each other. But then they wound up having barely any time at all. So, another huge sign of what could be a Victoria and Nate reunion is when and how that he finds out that Damien died. So, this week Nate's over at Victoria's place. He's talking to her and Claire. They're discussing Cole's memorial service and whether to wait, whether to do it because the Newmans are still gone. And that's when Lily calls him and asks him to step out so she can speak to him privately. So Nate steps outside to talk to Lily, and even though it's over the phone, she goes ahead. She tells him the terrible news that Damien was murdered. And she did it over the phone cause Lily didn't want Nate to hear it from somebody else before family got to tell him. Victoria is absolutely horrified to hear that Nate's brother died and she's comforting him. So, Victoria and Nate are grieving these two losses at the same time and doing that grieving together because they are true friends. They are a genuine source of comfort for one another. So, all that grief bonding feels like groundwork for a reunion between Nate and Victoria. And of course, it won't happen right away because Victoria's grief over Cole is very fresh and she need time to grieve, but I can see Nate really helping Victoria through that even while he's going through his whole thing. But also Nate's still with Audra, at least for now. But that seems doomed to fail. Once Nate finds out, Audra agreed to break Claire and Kyle up for Victor to get that startup capital for Vibrante. That's going to be a huge problem. Nate may agree with Kyle that Audra was basically pimping herself out. I mean, I don't know what else you call it, playing seduction games for investment money, you know? And of course, Nate's going to flip because Audra made out with Kyle, And according to Kyle, Audrey was using Damon's death as an excuse to get close to him. And honestly, Audra might have gone ahead and done the sexy thing with him if Kyle hadn't tapped the brakes. Audra was trying to avoid actually seducing Kyle, but by the time she got to France, she was so desperate to get that money from Victor that it seemed like she changed her mind, and was just ready to bite the bullet, and do what she had to, and Kyle already threatened to out her. So, if Audrey doesn't come clean to Nate, I bet he's going to hear it elsewhere. Lily, Abby, and others all noticed that Audra was all over Kyle on the trip. And while Damon's death may buy Audra some time, that won't last forever. Plus, Kyle already told Nikki, who may talk to Claire about it. So, I just don't see Audrey and Nate lasting much longer. He's gonna find out what she did, and I think he'll kick Audra to the curb pretty soon. But once he does, Nate and Victoria are both going to be sad and lonely, and it could be back on between them. They are both very different now from when the last time Nate was with Victoria. You know, when Nate was working with her at Newman Media and then at the main company and they were first hooking up. Victoria was so ruthless back then and she was 100% focused on business. But now Nate is seeing a more evolved Victoria who stepped out of the CEO role and is more focused on Claire and family and quality of life. That's something that Nate can really appreciate. So Victoria has changed a lot, and honestly, Nate has too. He's got more family in his life with Amy and the brother Damien that he just lost. He's not a player. And after Audra basically threw them away because of her desperate ambition, I don't think Nate's going to want to date a CEO type who's overly involved in work. But Victoria has softened up quite a bit, and I think she and Nate could be the next big love on Young and the Restless. Plus, there wouldn't be anything scandalous about it this time, since Victoria and Nate are both single. So, last time they began as a fling based on lust and lies, and that morphed into a dodgy relationship for Nate and Victoria that crashed and burned. If they do reunite this time, I think it'll be Nate helping Victoria heal and vice versa, and then it blossoms into real love, and I think it could be amazing. Thank you for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcasts because you don't want to miss the next episode. Why and Our Bombshell Gossip is on all the major podcast platforms including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.